Today, Rentals Under the Microscope, Part 2. Hello again, I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to our latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. We continue our deep dive into the broken private rental system by looking in more detail at a recent report published by AHURI. AHURI is a national independent research network that undertakes evidence-based policy development on a range of priority topics, including housing. They've just published a report navigating a changing private rental sector, opportunities and challenges for low-income renters. And by the way, if you value the content we produce, please consider joining our Patreon program, where you can support our ability to continue to make great content. And here is the link, and it's also in the comments below. AHURI started by using data from the HILDA survey, which is actually from 2015 and of course is out of date now. This is the same data source as the RBA keeps citing to ensure everyone that housing and the mortgage sector is just fine. AHURI says that the private rental sector has been expanding and transforming in a number of ways over the past decade as renters and investors and landlords adapt to rising home prices and rents, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne. At the low end of the sector, key developments have been the entry and expansion of the role of online platforms and community agency intermediaries in facilitating access to and tenancy management of private rental rooms and dwellings. The profile of renters is becoming more diverse as long-term renting continues to increase across all income groups, generating high competition for the limited dwellings that are affordable as a low income. The profile of investors and landlords and the lease lengths they choose to set for rooms and dwellings is also more varied. They find that the accessibility and affordability of dwellings at the low end of the private rental sector, or PRS, undoubtedly remains the central issue for vulnerable groups of renters. Their analysis shows that more than half of low-income individuals in a low-income household who are renting privately remain in this household group over a 5-year period. That this group of private renters is most likely to make a transition into social housing and is less likely to move, but when they do move, it's typically forced, i.e. their property is no longer available to rent. And low-income renters are least able, in terms of personal savings, to afford the upfront and relocation costs of a move. Individuals and households in the lowest 20% of the income distribution are least likely to rent in the formal private rental sector, with over 70% reporting a lack of affordable housing as an obstacle to finding more secure housing. The main type of living arrangements for these was renting from friends and family. Among low-income individuals renting in the formal private rental sector, the main transition between consecutive waves of the HILDA data was to move into an informal arrangement where they also rented privately from friends and family. AHURI states that the formal institutions within the PRS designed to overcome barriers to assessing and managing tenancies for low-income renters have not kept up with the pace of change occurring within the informal rental living arrangements. Any reforms to existing formal institutions intended to deliver better outcomes for private renters on a low income must grapple with an increasingly complex and fragmented private rental sector. They say that there is a clear need for centralised forms of assistance delivered via the statutory income system of support, but also a need for more devolved initiatives that can target informal and supported pathways through states and local government tenancy regulation and policy intervention. Centralised reform of rental housing assistance and regulation must seek to address the growing imbalance in the horizontal equity, treating those with similar incomes and wealth the same, and vertical equity, reducing the divide between those at the top and bottom of the income and wealth distribution. This includes reviewing the adequacy of wages, statutory incomes, and rental assistance in view of the rising costs of living. There is clear evidence that the informal pathway into the PRS is expanding through the reach of online platforms to exploit and disrupt formal paths to access and management. And regulation of informal rental practices, particularly in the context of online intermediaries and the growth of room rentals, must ensure that supply and access to urgent housing is not impeded, whilst also ensuring that tenants have adequate recourse to live in safe and secure rental housing. As the community sector expands its focus, there is growing capacity to establish more formal and enduring institutions at the low end of the PRS via a supported pathway delivered through an expanded community housing and welfare sector. However, existing policy assumptions surrounding time-limited supported housing in the PRS are highly problematic for those whose individual and household incomes remain low over time. They say that viable supported pathways into the PRS will require appropriate initiatives for landlords to set their rents to be comparable with social housing rentals. And the emergence of different types of landlords offering properties and rooms on a short-term to long-term basis, combined with the expanded reach of online platforms, provides opportunities for policymakers to assume a more direct role in better matching landlords and tenants. This includes targeting of landlord financial and taxation incentives to encourage supply of a mix of leasing options, dwelling types and locations at the low end of the market. So here is my summary of what the report said. The current trust the market approach to solve the housing rental issues is simply failing, creating a wide range of social issues, and the high costs of housing, thanks to poor policy, is making the whole situation worse. Another reason why a housing reset is required. As always, if you like what you've seen here today, please share and like the post and add a comment or question. I read them all. If you want to join the growing band of subscribers who receive alerts when we release new posts, do subscribe now by hitting the subscribe bell. And if you've already subscribed, many thanks. I do really appreciate your support and participation. And if you value the content we produce, please do consider joining our Patreon program, where you can support our ability to continue to make great content. The link is in the comments below. I'm Martin North, the Principal Analyst at Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.